Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. It was unusual for me to work on a Saturday. The only reason I was in Lancaster today was to reassure a special client. I work for the Python production company. We produce phones. These are not ordinary phones, but industrial phones that will work in abnormal or dangerous conditions. Our largest customers are refineries, manufacturing plants, oil platforms, and other enterprises with unfavorable environmental conditions. Today I had to solve a small problem at a large elevator, and I'm already done. I was just refilling the gas tank before returning to the trip when a pleasant surprise awaited me. Terry Harrison, what are you doing here? It was Monica Whitmer, an old family friend. Monica and her husband Brian used to live near Reading, and we talked a few times. It was a long time ago, and I was glad to see her. Hi, Monica. I came for half a day to do some work in Mannheim. How are you guys doing? We chatted for about 10 minutes, and eventually I followed her to their house for a family barbecue. Monica was from the coal country, and Brian and his family were from Lancaster. Most of the people who attended the meeting were Brian's relatives. I called my wife Darcy and told her that I had been intercepted by old friends. Then he and Monica chatted for 10 minutes. I felt better after telling my wife that I was late. The meeting was not eventful, except for one small thing. I was introduced to Brian's father and two brothers, as well as half a dozen of his offspring. Each of them had the same smile. The fong in the right corner of their mouth jutted out, and when any of the men or children smiled, their lips curved into a smile reminiscent of a pixie smile. Curiosity got the better of me. Monica, I need a little help. Do you want more beef or ribs? No, I'm fine. I was just thinking about the unique smile that all children have, as well as Brian and his brothers. Oh, you noticed? It's hard not to notice, especially when you have a whole bunch of them. It's a genetic trait. Brian, his brothers, and their father have a funny little front tooth. They pass it on to their children, and their children will pass it on to their children. It's pretty cute, isn't it? I smiled and let her return to her duties as hostess. On the way back to Reading, I had a lot of time to think. Darcy and I have been married for 20 years. I met her in college, and we seemed to find a common language. A few years later, I started working at Python and worked with them for almost 19 years. We have two 18-year-old twin sons, Ron and Rob, who are going to the University of Pennsylvania in the fall, and a charming little daughter, Jenny, who turned 14. We expected the boys to receive student loans and college grants, and hoped that Jenny would do the same. Darcy and I had a good life, a cozy house, and two nice cars. In 2 years, I would have been eligible to participate in the company's pension plan, and we would have had a good retirement account. Over the years, the company has offered to move me several times, but Darcy was categorically against it. Otherwise, we got along fine. Our bed life was good, if not exciting, and there didn't seem to be any problems in our marriage or relationship so far. Darcy made a light dinner because she knew I wouldn't be able to eat much after the barbecue. She asked how everyone was doing and expressed regret that she wasn't there. Jenny sat at the table opposite and ate in silence. The boys have gone somewhere, doing what boys their age usually do. Everything was fine until Jenny looked up and smiled. My appetite completely disappeared, and I excused myself from the table. I had no doubt that Jenny was Brian's daughter. Around the time Darcy became pregnant with Jenny, our bed life and our relationship in general began to cool down. Darcy never refused me in bed, but that spark and passion was missing. I thought it was natural, and I didn't dwell on it too much. I'm used to mediocre lovemaking and expected it to be like this for the rest of our lives. I wanted more and would have had more fun, but I didn't want to get picky about it. Now, everything has become clear on another level. From her frequent visits to Lancaster over the past 15 years, I could conclude that their romance was continuing. I'm not prone to confrontation, but I felt I had to tell Darcy about it, and I hoped I could do it in a civilized way. Hundreds of other questions began to pop into my head, and by bedtime, I felt completely overwhelmed. I told Darcy that I wasn't feeling well because of the greasy food, and that night, I slept on the couch. I spent the next day in the garage working on unnecessary projects that I had been putting off for too long. I was trying to kill time and think. The possibilities were endless. I had to take some action, and it had to bring at least some satisfaction. I was not inclined to revenge, but I wanted to limit any chance that my actions would somehow benefit Darcy and her lover. My first wish was to take care of the boys. Even though Jenny wasn't mine, I still loved her and didn't want to hurt her. Although I didn't want to hurt Darcy, I also wanted to make sure that eventually I wouldn't have to support her and Brian for the rest of my life. I knew for a fact that I didn't want to spend more time with Darcy than necessary. Her reaction during the confrontation would probably determine what I would do in the next few days. I decided it was best to have a conversation after Sunday dinner. Darcy was a great cook, and dinner that night, as usual, was great. Ron and Rod excused themselves before dessert and went to visit friends. Jenny finished her dessert, and when she went into the living room, Darcy and I were left alone to drink coffee. Something's been bothering you all day, Terry. Do you want to tell me what it is? Perhaps my thoughts were too obvious. I'm just wondering how long we're going to wait before we tell Jenny who her real father is. I didn't know how else to talk about it. There was a long pause at the other end of the table, followed by a deep sigh. It's amazing how long it took you to figure that out. She kept her face impassive, looking from the middle of the table to me. I don't think she needs to know until she turns 18 or until she has some health problems when it becomes necessary. Everything is fine as it is. We won't get anywhere if we tell her now. Is that fair? Fair to whom? A stable family life is important for a girl of her age. She doesn't need to know. I'll tell her when the time comes. For now, just keep your mouth shut. I was amazed. I just told my wife that I know about her infidelity, and as a result, she began to dominate the conversation and make demands on me. I think she should have apologized and apologized for what she did, but it wasn't like that. She acted like she hadn't done anything wrong, and everything would go on as it was, whether I liked it or not. My first reaction was to grab her by the throat, but around that time I noticed a slight movement in the hallway outside the dining room. Jenny was listening to our conversation. When I stopped talking, I heard her hurrying away. I decided to take it calmly. Should we think about divorce? I just said that it is important to maintain a stable family environment for a few more years. Divorce is out of the question. What would Jenny and I do if we broke up? I think it would be better to wait a while until she grows up and everything gets better financially. Everything suddenly became clear. In 2 years, I would have the rights to the company's pension fund. In addition to a portion of my salary, Darcy would also be eligible for a portion of my retirement plan when she turns 65. This fool had planned everything in advance. Much in advance. I had a lot to think about. I sat motionless, saying nothing. At least we won't have to endure making love out of pity anymore. This is a great relief. What are you talking about? For the last 15 years, I've been making love to you when you wanted me to, so you wouldn't get suspicious. It took a lot longer than I thought because you were so damn slow to think. At least it's over now. We don't have to pretend anymore. Perhaps from now on, I will also travel to Lancaster more often. I sat for a few more minutes, and neither of us said anything. I'll move my things to the guest room while you and Jenny do the dishes. I don't want to impose on you any more than necessary. You're acting like a spoiled brat, Terry. We can sleep in the same bedroom. It's better for the kids. I didn't answer. There was a sofa bed in the guest room, which was damn uncomfortable, but I didn't have to sleep with that fool anymore. I got up and ran out of the house before anyone could move. I didn't want to answer questions about where I was going to sleep. After a quick breakfast, I went to work. I stayed up most of the night making plans. It would be a busy day. My bosses at Pydone were more than happy to talk to me. I spent the whole morning putting things in order before clearing the table and heading out for lunch. As I was finishing a large steak sandwich, I realized that I was smiling to myself like an idiot. Everything started well. I spent the rest of the day at the bank, at the insurance agency office, and looking for a job. I got home around 3, which was unusual for me. Why the hell did you come home so early? I quit my job. What? You like this job. Why on earth would you quit? She paused for a second, waiting for an answer that never came. Are you still upset about yesterday? No, I just decided that I was working too hard and wanted to change. Starting tomorrow, I'm applying for a new job at DS Brown. To the feed mill? What the hell are you going to do at the feed mill? Load trucks and freight wagons. No hassle and no responsibility. I hope to lose some weight too. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. How are we going to pay for the boys' college tuition? This job pays no more than the minimum wage. I don't understand what came into your head. What happened to your pension? She's gone. It took me 20 years to keep it, but I didn't have them. Did you get a severance package? What about vacation and sick leave? No, no, and no. To receive accrued sick leave or vacation leave, you must give 60 days notice. You only get severance pay when you get fired. I didn't warn you, I just quit. What about the boys' college? No problem. The bank will give us a second mortgage, and we will be able to get enough money to make a 4-year prepayment for both of them. They can still apply for any grants or loans if required. And how do we make 2 payments for the house? I think that without the boys, the house will still be too big for us, so we'll probably sell it eventually. You're crazy. Darcy shook her head in disbelief at what I'd done and left. A sense of pride and accomplishment overwhelmed me. My plan was being implemented. Over the next 2 months, my relationship with Darcy only worsened. My relationship with Jenny, however, has improved. Jenny became the perfect little daughter, even though she wasn't mine. I wasn't sure if she had actually heard Darcy and me talking. The second mortgage on the house was issued without any problems, mainly because I had prepared everything in advance. Every dollar went straight to Pennsylvania State University to pay for Ron and Rob's tuition. We couldn't pay the mortgage anymore, so the house was put up for sale. I quietly sold my collection of weapons and coins and hid the money in a safe place. I traded my BMW for a used Ford pickup truck to avoid paying the bills. Darcy and Jenny left their cell phones, but I got rid of mine and told the boys to take theirs if they wanted. I barely earned enough to pay for utilities and buy food. We had to postpone payments on the house until it was sold. The bank understood. After the sale of the house, we still have about $30,000 left. I took the entire check and bought Darcy a new Lincoln sedan. I checked carefully, and this car had the highest possible level of depreciation. In 5 years, it will be worth almost nothing. I hope she enjoyed it. We rented a small house in a modest area of the city. Darcy started going to Lancaster more often. We never talked about it. I tried to save a little from my salary, but I couldn't do anything. Darcy didn't know about it, but all the life insurance policies were canceled or cashed out. This money has also been deposited into my secret account. Jenny and I have become very close. She was moving away from Darcy and becoming more and more attached to me. I didn't mind, but Darcy seemed annoyed by it. The boys had excellent success in college. When Jenny turned 16, I asked her if she wanted anything special. She whispered in my ear what she would like and asked me not to tell my mother. Darcy was furious when she saw that Jenny's right fong had been removed. Due to the fact that it was growing a lot, the dentist was able to remove it without leaving a place where it should have been. There was a small, painful spot on the gum where she had a tooth, but he said it would disappear without a trace. Jenny was delighted. Darcy hasn't spoken to me in a week. I thought it was a great gift. I lost almost 15 kilograms while working at a feed mill. With the right lighting, it seemed like I really had abs. I think I was kidding myself, but it was nice to dream. For the first few weeks, everything hurt, but over time it became pleasant to exercise. Jenny was in her senior year of high school, and we became best friends. It was her choice, not mine, but I was flattered. Out of the blue, Darcy went from sullen to happy. She was cheerful and bounced like a little girl. I put up with it for a few days, and then I cornered Jenny. What the hell is going on with your mom? I'd rather not talk about it. She's behaving abominably. What does this mean? 3 days ago, she found out that Monica Whitmer has cervical cancer. Doctors say she has less than 3 months to live. Ever since Mom found out about this, she has become frivolous. I think it's terrible that she gets so much pleasure from someone else's grief. Monica has never done anything to her, and she's acting like a real bitch because of it. It's not good to call your mother a bitch. I do not know what other name would be more appropriate now. Unfortunately, I had to agree with Jenny. Now that I understood the reason for her delight, I felt the same as Jenny. It wasn't easy for me to put up with her and at the same time keep my mouth shut. I worked a lot of overtime and spent a lot of time away from home. Sometimes Jenny would leave with me, and we would wander around the mall for hours. We didn't want to go home. 3 weeks later, I was handed the divorce papers. Since Jenny would have turned 18 before the decision was finally made, there was no question of custody of the child. We no longer had a home and no money in the bank. Darcy didn't ask for alimony or support. It was an ordinary divorce due to incompatibility. I signed all the papers as they were and quit my job at the feed mill. I stopped by Paytone's office and then took a quick look at the bank before heading home. Darcy wasn't at home. Jenny said she went to Lancaster for a few days to comfort Monica. We both had a little laugh about it. I handed Jenny an envelope with $10,000 in it. I apologized that it wasn't much, but promised to send it a little later. I explained that I had to leave and that she would be fine with her mother. She wasn't happy, but she helped me pack anyway. Darcy could have taken care of what needed to be done around the house after I left. I had no idea what Jenny's plans were after graduation. Jenny volunteered to tell the twins about the breakup, but said she couldn't be impartial. 6 weeks after I left, Monica Whitmer died. My friend Tom Kalita lived in a 2-story modular house in Ocala National Park, near Silver Springs, Florida. He actually lived in Moss Bluff, but no one had ever heard of it. He retired from the Air Force and, together with his wife, Wanda, spent most of his time fishing and hiking at yard sales. Tom has been trying to persuade me to come visit for several years. It was nice to have a place to go. I've always admired the fishing shows on TV where monster fish were caught with ridiculous lures. Tom spent the next few weeks trying to prove that it was real. He taught me how to throw a jig beetle over the leaves of water lilies. It was fascinating to watch the huge mouths jump out of the water after the annoying intruders. It was fun for the first few months, but then it started to get boring. I didn't hear anything from home, mainly because no one knew where I was. I was counting the days until the final divorce. Tom and Wanda were aware of what was happening and were very supportive of me. The day after the divorce, which was supposed to be final, Tom and Wanda were going to take me to Orlando International Airport. I took a few things with me, so it was not difficult to pack my things. I left Tom a Ford pickup truck as a thank you for putting up with me. And then everything took a strange turn. No sooner had we left the driveway than a black SUV pulled up to us. Tom had no idea who they were. Clyde Green introduced himself and introduced his friend Dave Fielding as FBI agents. We're looking for Terry Harrison. Can you help us? Agent Green, apparently, was the senior. I didn't say anything, just raised my hand slightly. Mr. Harrison, we need a few minutes of your time. Can you help us? Of course. No problems. Tom and Wanda smiled slightly at the group and entered the modular house. We all sat down at the picnic table on the patio in front of the house. Clyde put a small dictaphone and a notebook on the table. Tell us about your trip to Lisbon, Mr. Harrison. Nothing special. I'm moving to a new job in Lisbon. Why now? I assume that you probably know that my divorce was finalized yesterday. I postponed the transition to a new job until the divorce was finalized. Is this a problem? No, not at all. We're just trying to clarify something. Let's not talk nonsense. What the hell are you doing here, and what the hell do you want? I have a plane to catch, and I don't want to play cat and mouse. Get to the point, damn it. Green and Fielding looked at each other and shrugged. Green closed his notebook. Brian Whitmer died yesterday afternoon as a result of a car bomb explosion. Due to the circumstances surrounding your divorce, we decided it was important to talk to you. Wow, just in time. Well, I suppose you know that I've been here for 3 months now, and Tom can confirm that. I don't know anything about explosives, and to tell you the truth, I really had no reason to wish Brian dead. From my point of view, he did me a favor. I wanted to get rid of this fool, and I couldn't wait for it to end. I am in no way outraged by his affair with my wife. It makes me a little angry that I spent 16 years raising his child, but not enough to kill him. However, the timing is very interesting. We know who planted the explosives, and we know it wasn't you. What exactly do we need to know? Did you pay for it to be done? And do you know the person who did it? Tell me who you think did it, and I'll tell you if I know him. Do you know a man named Tony Donato from Westchester? I don't know anyone with that name. In fact, I don't know anyone from Westchester at all. Has your service checked the phone records? How do you know it was him? We haven't been able to find any records of phone calls to Mr. Donato from anywhere in Florida in the last month. The method used to plant the bomb was very crude, but effective. Mr. Donato has already used the same scheme several times, but we have not been able to catch him. What exactly are you trying to find out from me? I don't know anything about the explosion. I don't know Mr. Donato, and I don't care if Brian Whitmer is alive or dead. Brian Whitmer was the reason my wife left me, and I'm grateful to him for that. I don't hold a grudge against him. Honestly, we just didn't want to leave any stone unturned. I'm sure you understand. Will you be available if we need to talk to you again? Absolutely. I'll contact you after I get settled. For hours later, I was on my way to Lisbon. Flying by plane has given me a lot of time to think about the last few years. My relationship with Darcy has been going downhill for a long time. I was too dumb to realize she was having an affair. To make matters worse, I raised her lover's child as my own. I really loved Jenny and got close to her after I found out she wasn't mine. As soon as I realized that Darcy was planning to get some monetary benefit from my job and retirement, I decided to take steps to stop it. Pydone was more than happy to suspend my work for several years if I agreed to lead a new European division. The timing was perfect for both the company and me. I didn't expect Brian's wife to die, but Jenny was still close to graduating from high school. My new position as Vice President of Operations at Continental was accompanied by a substantial salary increase, a large package of benefits, and the restoration of my previous retirement plan. I had small savings that I was secretly saving, and all my affairs were in order. I felt guilty for not doing more for Jenny, but I could fix it later. Ron and Rob were graduating from the University of Pennsylvania, and they were doing well. I was lagging behind Darcy and Jenny in status, but I hoped to catch up when I got settled. The interview with the feds went faster and easier than I expected. I thought it was unusual, but I didn't focus on it. I more or less shelved it with a silent expression of relief. Although it made me wonder what had happened. Settling into my new home turned out to be much easier than I thought. I had subordinates now, and they pretty much took care of everything before I arrived. The house, or rather the villa, that they chose for me was amazing. The house stood on a hillside with a beautiful view of the harbor. I attended language courses twice a week, and I had plenty of time for private lessons. As they say, life was good. For one reason or another, I haven't contacted Jenny or Darcy. In fact, no one except the company and the twins knew where I was. Ron was in graduate school at the University of Texas, and Rob was now a second lieutenant in the Army, thanks to ROTC. They said Darcy was at the prom, but no one discussed separation or divorce. They readily agreed not to tell her about my whereabouts. They didn't know where she lived or what she did, and they avoided asking. Jenny told them about everything that led to the divorce, and apparently did not embellish it. They seemed to be a little resentful of their mother. I was proud of all three of my children. A year passed, and everything was going well. In early April, I received an invitation to Jenny's wedding. Unfortunately, I received it about 2 weeks after the date of the ceremony. In a small note inside, she expressed her wish that I would accept it if I received the invitation in time. I was sorry that I wasn't there for her. It took my assistant about 2 hours to find out the current address and phone number of Frank and Jenny Connie in King of Prussia. Hi, Jenny, it's Dad. Dad, you have received my invitation. I've missed you so much. Hey, slow down. It's all good. I'm just sorry that I didn't find out about the wedding until it was too late. I am very upset that I missed it. It was wonderful, and even though you weren't there, everything went perfectly. I really wanted you to walk down the aisle with me. Frank is a great guy, Dad. You'll like him. He has just completed his degree in electrical engineering and will hopefully start a new job in a couple of months. Jenny chatted incessantly. She seemed as excited about talking to me as she was about the wedding. I was happy for her. I didn't buy you anything. What do you need or want? I need to see you and introduce you to Frank. Can you come to my place? Not now, but why don't you and Frank come visit me? I have a great place and lots of rooms. I can book tickets if you guys can figure out how to arrange it. Good. It sounds tempting. Can I call you back tomorrow? Give me your number. I love you, Daddy, and I miss you. I can't wait to see you. I'll be fine, don't worry. Jenny's new husband had everything a father could ever dream of. He was good-looking, hardworking, and ambitious. I liked him, and I felt that he would take good care of my daughter. Although I knew Jenny wasn't mine, I loved her like my own daughter. Jenny willingly told me about her mother. Darcy felt estranged from Brian's family after his death. They seemed to think she was somehow responsible for what happened to Brian. There were also rumors about her affair with Brian behind Monica's back, which made her an unwelcome guest in the family. Without Brian, Darcy had no way to support herself. She now worked at a diner on the Turnpike Highway and lived in a mobile home near Lancaster. While Jenny was getting dressed so we could go out for dinner, I had a little one-on-one chat with Frank. Any specific plans after college, Frank? Mostly work. Jenny has agreed to move to where we need to go, so it makes the task much easier. I'd rather find a job that I like, instead of being stuck with one that I don't like in a certain place. I think I can understand that. For 10 minutes, we talked about what he studied at Drexel and what kind of job he was looking for. Surprisingly, he spoke Italian quite well. He picked up the language from his grandparents, who lived with him while he was growing up in Philadelphia. We were planning to open a service center in Parma, and the only problem was to find a specialist who would speak our language. In this case, experience was not as important as education and management skills. I was trying to figure out how to make it work while listening to Frank's conversation. It would be great if Jenny was close enough for me to see her sometimes. It's good to be a boss. Around this time, my beautiful Jenny joined us. We chatted casually as we walked to the car. Jenny, since I couldn't come to the wedding, what would you choose as a gift? Frank's uncle, Anthony, introduced us, and he was more than happy to do it. He also gave us a very nice wedding present. Frank laughed when he heard that. I never expected to receive a wedding gift of $10,000 from someone, and it was a real surprise for me to receive it from Uncle Anthony. Not that he had a real job or anything like that. I'm not sure where he gets his money from, but it was undoubtedly appreciated. Well, I must remember to send Uncle Anthony Connie a nice letter to thank him personally. Oh no, he's my maternal uncle. His last name is Donato. I looked at Jenny, and she had a little pixie smile on her face, but without the protruding teeth. N.